Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back into Venting with Us with your girl, Christelle. Hmm. I had to get an energy drink today. I needed some energy. I hope everybody had a wonderful week. It was so crazy. I swear to you, it. I tend to shut the world out, at least one day out of the week. I try and do it. Thursdays seem to be lately where I'm just like so exhausted that I don't want to, I can't push myself. But then somehow I end up finding this little burst of energy in there, right? So over the weekend, I was really adamant that I was like, I'm going to tune everything out. I'm just going to try and relax this weekend, get a little bit of me time. And I really wasn't on social media so much. The show already had been taped. So I had pre-recorded it. And all I really had to focus was releasing my TikTok videos and my YouTube videos, which I'm so annoyed because I'm trying to figure out the TikTok algorithm again because they changed their time. So I've been doing all different spot checks. It's getting crazy. It's just getting wild. And I'm just like, you know what? Whatever. It is what it is at the end of the day. Because when I wake up in the morning, that my numbers are right. But it's like I'm trying to get them to hit at that certain time. I'm trying to figure out that time slot. With YouTube, I have figured it out. So hopefully that doesn't change. But, they're always doing these updates. And then it's kind of like you got to be like MacGyver and fucking figure shit out and shit. So, but over the weekend, I was, getting ready. I was trying to figure out how to get my stories in and whatnot. And I swear to you guys that things always happen for a reason. And when I had did the show, I had this idea of doing this episode, which was kind of, doing a combination of different stories. I had been watching Sons of Anarchy and learning the backstories and, all the myths and everything. I was like, this would probably be kind of cool to just do an episode, not about documentaries, but maybe stuff with Hollywood, but how would I synchronize that in? And so I'm still focused on work, but not on work. And Monday rolls over and it's raining and I take a me day, right? Later on in the day, there's a purpose why I'm telling you guys this story. I see in my phone, bzz, 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 bzz. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What happened? And I only see comments because I'm not actually going into the feeds, and all I see is, did you see what happened? Oh my God, I could not believe it. I was like, okay, let me just get myself together here. Let me see what the fuck is going on. What did I miss? Because now I'm having FOMO. And apparently I missed the biggest thing on TikTok because normally when I'm on TikTok, I do see Perez Hilton go on live. I don't really watch him, but somehow I think because the stupid algorithm, when you watch something, it just kind of keeps circulating into that. So I watched one live for a couple of seconds, and now I'm every time he's on live, it sucks me in there. And he was on live and he was cutting himself. And he was from head to toe filled with blood. I have not seen the video. I can't see the video. I don't know where to find the video. And I know what probably people are going to say, why would you want to see that? The reason why I like to see those type of things, even with Charlie Kirk, when they shot him in the neck, I like to see what led up to it, because people get a lot of stuff misconstrued. And I just wanted to see what, in the beginning, how that live started. What happened? What snapped? Was his behavior that, like, did it switch at one point? Um, we know he had a mental break, and, you know, the thing with Hollywood, and this is not a myth, this is very, very well known. I know so many people in this industry that I have heard all the most craziest stories, which I'm excited about this episode because I'm going to give you a few of those crazy stories. But I have heard so many stories from people and things that have happened on set, and things that, while they were working, these things happen, especially, on horror films, because sometimes they do certain things on certain locations, and that, that stigma always kind of travels with you. You hear that about The Conjuring all the time, where they were working on set, and one of the cast members, I forgot who it was specifically, but they ended up finding like scratch marks all over them, and they were like, whoa, it was a particular scene that they were working on. So you just hear so many stories. Now, the thing with Perez Hilton, and guys, please, this is just my opinion. Everybody has their own thoughts and how they feel about Perez Hilton. In my opinion, it's kind of 50-50. Part of me does feel bad for him, and then the other part of it is like, damn, is this your karma for everything that you have said and put out there? Because I do believe that these things do end up happening, and it's only because, again, you've seen it with Wendy Williams. You've seen it with so many different people that, talk so badly and say that, oh man, they just need to do this. Like with Perez Hilton, for example, I'm going to use this as an example. Like when Britney Spears was going through that whole thing, allegedly, he was like, well, I hope she, unalives herself and and get it over with, and blah, blah, blah. And, his career at one point was high peak. Times has changed. It's not the same. You just can't go out there. I don't, as much as I love Wendy Williams, and everybody knows I'm a huge Wendy Williams fan, I don't think that Wendy Williams could do the same thing that she did years ago. I think the times have changed. I think we all love it, but there would have to be some type of change to kind of normalize it. Certain stuff is not okay anymore, and with Perez Hilton, I had discovered that I had known he had substance abuse problems, but there was always conversations that he's had that, he doesn't do drugs and he doesn't have an issue with it anymore, that he did seek help and blah, 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 blah. And I believe he said this on the Ellen show, because Ellen, nobody wanted to touch Perez Hilton. Nobody. And, I remember that interview so distinctively. It's like I can see the whole interview when Ellen I think she had just came out. She was in maybe her first 2 or 3 seasons in. I'm not sure exactly. But, she was like, I like to give people second chances. I believe in second chances. And you said that you've changed. You want to change. And he gave this whole big spew about it, right? And I remember saying to myself after I watched that interview, I'm like, he's saying this, but there's something deeper in there. And I don't know what specifically it is, but it's kind of like a facade that he's trying to give because maybe he can't find work or there's something else going on. I can't pinpoint it. Now, fast forward years later, now all of this stuff is coming out that, he lost all his money. He's not the hot topic anymore. I know that he's gotten banned from TikTok several times to where they canceled him, and I think when, because I know so many people in this industry, when you're at your highest peak and then you lose all of that, a lot of people can't handle that. They don't know what to do with themselves because they've been doing it for so long. And I have always said this. I think God gives certain people certain things at a certain time in life because that's when you know how you can appreciate it. And the ones that he gives it too fast, it's like a test. So that way, when they get to the top, he wants to see if they abuse it or not. And then that's why you see it, it's like a domino effect. It completely crumbles. And you see that a lot of people that get into power and all shit hits the fan because, they abuse that power. Um, but allegedly this was all like with a butter knife. This was a fucking sharp butter knife, and I'm not trying to make light of it because I really went to my cabinet drawers and I looked at and I have very expensive silverware because I really thought that I was gonna be fancy one day. I was like, yeah, I don't care how much it costs, and it cost me like over $200 for like fucking silverware. That, mind you, I used one fork, one knife, one spoon, and that's it. And that's like depending on what I'm eating, because right now I'm on my rice cake diet, which I've been doing good. I will tell you this: yesterday I almost folded. I went into Meat Farms and the girl had cold cuts and I wanted to eat her arm. I was so hungry. So but yeah, I think that he's having a break and I feel bad for the family. The family allegedly, I don't know how the monetization on TikTok works, if they get like an alert. I know that, the video lasted for about 34 minutes. And it's so funny. People were like, don't watch the video. I'm like, well, I can't find the video. So relax, calm down, because I seriously cannot find this video. And I literally am good at finding everything. But I cannot find this video. But yeah, they said it was 34 minutes, and finally TikTok's monetization mod or whatever clicked, and they shut it down, and the police came and alerted the police, and the police, now he's in a psychiatric. The family have spoken out in the last couple of days saying that he's able to communicate with everybody, but he's, giving in smaller doses. I just think that he just finally was like, you know what, I can't financially support myself. I'm not famous and, anymore the way I was. Times have changed. Whatever it is, he had a mental breakdown. And it's so crazy because I was talking to my friend last night, and he went through a period of difficulties himself. And I told him, I'm like, you know what? The one thing that I can tell you is to keep going. And when you feel that your passion is starting to feel like work, that's not when it's fun anymore. And you have to kind of regroup yourself, and you'll find your path. You'll find your way. It all happens. We all have burnout. After my mom passed away, I think that's when it really hit me. I was like, my God, uh, what do I do from here? Like, how do I go forward? And it was so many, like, that mental state really like can get to you. But unfortunately, we are not in the same space as Perez Hilton, where if something, if we have a breakdown, nobody knows about it unless it's like you're in a circle. With Perez Hilton, unfortunately, it's all over the news. So it's crazy. My heart does go out to him. I never want to see anybody in such a bad place. I'm always rooting for people, and I know that at this point people are like, I don't care, whatever. But he's still a person at the end of the day. I still think it's karma coming back. And that's why you have to be careful with what you say. It's okay to have an opinion, but you don't have to be an asshole about it. Him, especially him saying, about Britney Spears should just already herself, when she was going through her hard time. These things have a way of coming back. And again, it's kind of like the Wendy Williams thing, it's a lot of karma And I think that's what happens in Hollywood. It's really, really crazy. So we'll see what happens. We're going to get more information and I'll keep you guys updated. Um, if I hear anything else, I think the worst has passed and better things will come. He just needs to regroup and find himself again. All right. So let's deep dive into this crazy Hollywood stories. You hear it all the time how, people go crazy. They have psychotic breaks. There's, things that are attached to houses and movie sets and just certain items. So let's deep dive into a couple of them. Let's first talk about the Hollywood sign. Everybody knows this. It's the most famous thing in the world. When you think of Hollywood, you think about the Hollywood sign. You see it, you want to go up there, you just want to take photos of it, which I don't think the Hollywood sign is there anymore. I think it collapsed, right? I'm not sure. But did you guys know that the famous Hollywood sign in Griffin Park at the eastern edge of the Hollywood Hills is said to be the most haunted place in the world for struggling actors? A lot of people go up there, they sob up there, they just dream the dream. And one particular actress, Peg Entwistle, I think that's how you say it. I might have said it wrong. She committed suicide by leaping to her death from the top of the H sign in 1932, just before the release of 13 Women, which marked her only film role. Nighttime visitors to Griffin Park sometimes say that they see visions of a woman in 1930s era clothing roaming the trails around the sign or plummeting from the top. That has to be the most scariest thing because you could just be there, right? And a lot of people do go to the Hollywood sign. They love to take pictures of it. Yeah, again, people, I'm one of them. I've always said, like, if I ever go out there, I would love to take, pictures and off the Hollywood Hills. And could you imagine you're just like, doo, 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 what's that? Then you see like a ghost just jumping off the H sign, like, did you see what I see? Like, what the fuck? So that would be the craziest thing. So, and I have seen ghosts. Okay, I have. I will share that with you at the end of this story, so that way when we wrap this up. So the next craziest story that I have for you guys is the house that inspired the Ghostbusters. Now, everybody knows the classic Ghostbusters. The first film, the second film, which I think I still like the first one, but it is what it is. If you're a fan, you're a fan. Everybody knows the movie. Um, though I have to say it did not age well because I look at that movie now and I'm like, that is so fake. The former home of actor Dan Aykroyd on Woodrow Wilson Drive had also been home to a teenage Natalie Wood singer, Mama, and former Beatle Ringo Starr. The house was not especially known for disturbances until the former Saturday Night Live star moved the early 1980s. 1980s. Oh my God. It didn't take long for Aykroyd to conclude that the house was haunted. Sometimes things were turning on. You could hear things going up the stairs, playing the piano and slamming doors. And Dan Aykroyd said in an interview that one night he even felt someone or something crawling into the bed with him, and it wasn't his wife, actress at the time, Donna Dixon. I have to say, there's a thing when I sleep, I have to sleep with the covers. I can be like so hot, right? But I have to make sure the covers cover my feet because I always feel like someone's going to grab my feet. I don't know if anybody else had that same feeling, but I always have this fear that someone's going to grab my feet or my legs. And every time I watch scary movies like this, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly why I have to cover my feet. So, um, because of all of the paranormal activity, um, this is what inspired him to do the movie and the hit of Ghostbusters of 1984. So you never know where you can get ideas, guys. So the next story, father figure, Ozzie Nilsson, portrayed the clean-cut all-American dad in The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet on TV from 1952 through 1966. After Nilsson's death at age 69 in 1975, the owners of his former in the Hollywood Hills, where this is a lot where these things happen, reported hearing footsteps and seeing a ghost wearing a cardigan sweater. Once a female visitor sleeping alone upstairs felt someone crawl into bed with her and began kissing her. Realizing it wasn't her husband, then rushing to turn on the light, she was relieved and shocked to discover there was no one there. The Adventures of Ozzie, indeed. So you never ever know. I'm telling you, if you feel something, keep the lights on. This is why sometimes I even sleep with the TV on. Oh my God. Then we fall down into the most haunted hotels, and there have been several, where a lot of TV shows, especially on what is that channel on Discovery, have created so many different, you know, ghost invasions, ghost familiarity, TV shows, Ghostbusters. What is it? There's so many of them that I'm trying to remember all of the names. But the most modern ghosts can be found at the Chateau Marmont, the all-star hotel located above the Sunset Strip. That's where it's said that the afterlife party never ends. With the spirits of the former guests, such as comedian John Belushi, there we go, the Doors singer Jim Morrison, and Led Zeppelin. You guys know I can't get through anything. And Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham still hanging around, partying like it's still 1982. Belushi was 33 when he died of a drug overdose in the bungalow in 1982, and Morrison and Boham didn't expire at that moment, but they could have. Boham once rode a motorcycle through the hotel's hotels. You know, my phone is broken. Hotels, hallways, and lobby. And Morrison, out of his mind on drugs, nearly died when he fell from the roof of his bungalow after dangling from a gutter. So, you know, it is still, people still say that hotel in particular, you can, every now and then you see people walking by, or you hear things like clattering, you hear people going up the stairs, doors opening, doors closing. You hear a lot of people say this in interviews. If you've ever watched that show, The Most Haunted Hotels in America, that hotel in particular always comes up. It's one of the most famous haunted hotels in the whole world. So there's even, in Connecticut, there's a lot of houses known that they're so haunted that people can't really sell them. That's how bad it is. So then we're going to move on to number 5, the most spooky cinemas. This one probably took me off the edge because I am not a movie theater person, and now I am coming to the realization of why. So The specter of a tall, thin man, said to be the ghost of a movie magnate, Howard Hughes, is thought to run the hallways of one of the most Hollywood's crown jewel theaters of its golden age. The Pantagus? Yeah, Pantagus. There we go. Hughes purchased the movie Palace in 1949, and it hosted the Academy Awards from 1950 to 1960. Another theater, the Vogue, was built on the former site of the elementary school that burned to the ground in 1901, killing 25 children and a teacher. Thousands of visitors have reported seeing strange apparitions during movie screenings, including a little girl skipping across the stage. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's too dark in there, and I don't want to see anybody like, okay, why is this girl running across the, like, seriously? Can Where is the parent of this child? Meanwhile, the damn child is dead. Dead. I can't. I can't. Hollywood's most active ghost would have been that of Rudolph Valentino, the silent film legend who died in 1926 at the age of 31. Even though he was a bona fide superstar in his short lifetime, he became a legend after his untimely death. It's estimated that for more people have seen his ghost than his movies. Damn. Like, if you want to be famous, don't be famous to be a ghost. His presence is one of the most commonly cited apparitions in Hollywood and has been reported in more than a dozen locations. Before they were demolished, both his former LA homes were common places for Valentino's ghost spotting. He continues to make appearances in his costume department of Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures is said to be very, very haunting. There have been so many deaths there. And, a lot of people have said, they've seen, people that have worked there and have passed away in the parking lot driving around, and it's weird. I'm telling you, the stories are weird. So that's all I have for you for today, guys. Wait, I know that there was another one. Hold on. So the Munchkin suicide. Let's talk about this one. The most enduring myths in Hollywood lore originated on the set of the classic 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz. The movie's magical world contains imaginary, both beautiful and frightful, giving both to a number of legends that have continued to affect its legacy. Perhaps the most bizarre story that has endured and planted itself firmly within the clutches of the urban legend is that of the Munchkin who committed suicide. Now, everybody knows this story. If you watch the movie, when the Tin Man, Dorothy, and the Scarecrow are off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz, you can supposedly see the swinging body of a hanging Munchkin and draping from the branch. Now, it has been said that allegedly this is a crane or, black crows, but it still remains to be said that it was an actual Munchkin that committed suicide while filming that film. So, The Curse of Poltergeist. Who doesn't remember this? Perhaps no other film franchise in Hollywood history has attracted more bad luck than that of Poltergeist, which first premiered in 1982. Several actors have met very strange and tragic fates, casting a pall over the Poltergeist legacy, in some ways more than one. For starters, one of the most memorable scenes features the main character, Diane, falling into the family pool. You guys remember this, right? I was terrified after the scene. And this is the scene where she goes in to look for Carol Ann, and it's muddy and there's skeletons, and she's like, ah, ah, ah. Right? Right? Remember that scene? Such a great movie. Well, unfortunately, those skeleton guys, those skeletons were real. And the actors initially had no awareness of this creepy fact. The crew apparently, I'm sorry, to save money, had used real skeletons instead of replicating hundreds utilizing materials such as rubber. So that would have freaked me out. I'd be like, excuse me? Excuse me? Now, everybody also knows from Poltergeist the unfortunate passing of 22-year-old Dominic Dunn. One of the film stars was found brutally murdered shortly after the film's release by her abusive ex-boyfriend, which was crazy because she was over at a friend's house. I'm sorry, at her house, and the boyfriend lured her out, and then he choked her to death. This was such a terrible, terrible story for her. It's just, one of those that is so sad that it's still, a lot of people are like, she was taken way too soon. And that's what happens to a lot of the greats. All right, guys, that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to try and come up with some more. I have some other documentaries coming soon, and maybe I might do some films. Who knows? I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and see you next week. Bye.